Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got a very special guest, and this one for me is going to be a very exciting video because I'm a big fan of Neve's content. I love all of her stuff. But a lot of you will know her from her channel Stunt Pegg, which she does amazing stuff on. So thank you, Neve, for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. I'm just really excited to have you here to chat about, a bit about your journey through content creating. And I did want to kind of start off a bit about how it all started because you did kind of start doing videos about 3 years ago. For you, what inspired you to make your own channel?
I think because growing up, I was very introverted, very shy, but really creative, and my personality didn't necessarily match the way I was. So I
Yeah.
kind of wanted a medium, a platform to be able to express myself. And I felt like YouTube, there was no real pressure there. I was just talking to my phone, kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like for me, YouTube has grown in like now compared to back then. Like YouTube, it wasn't what it is now. Like it's so different now. Like people can have jobs out of it. People can do that. And for me, like a lot of people do start, just to talk about football, and it's such a nice thing. I kind of think it's crazy that people just like looking at me talking to a camera. The same with you. I think it's absolutely amazing that that's kind of how YouTube works now, and it is a good way to kind of do that. And I did want to ask you a bit about yourself growing up. For you, I wanted to talk about your love of football. Like, did you ever see yourself having a YouTube channel talking about football? And were you ever interested in playing football as a kid?
Yeah, so my dad, he used to work in football, so I very much grew up with it. Not necessarily always at the top level as well, because he would often work at football clubs in the lower divisions. So I would often be there in the terraces from a very, very young age. So I was sort of just surrounded by it all the time, and it was just normal to me to talk about football. It just came so naturally all the time. And the idea that it could be a job, it could be something that I would keep doing myself, a bit like my dad, but my own side of it, a different part of the industry of football. The idea that I could do that for a living, it just, I don't know, it just felt right. It just felt like it should be that way, because I've just non-stop been talking about it for years and years and years.
Yeah, I love that. I was pretty much the same because I was always around family that love football, and I just feel like it's such a nice feeling to have your own channel to just kind of rant about how you're feeling after a game. And it's great to meet other people that have that same passion because for me, like a lot of my, family don't support Arsenal, and as much as they're happy for me to yap in error about it, it's nice to kind of connect with other fans that support the same team as you. And I think it's a really great way to connect with others. And I know with your channel, you've done it for 3 years, you've been really successful, but you're almost at 300k. Um, so for you, did you always think you would kind of have the success? Because I know that it's quite hard to kind of get there, and you've done it for a long time. You've worked really hard in your videos. So did you ever imagine to get this much success from it?
So in all different ways, I've always been so hard on myself, but in a sense of YouTube, it's so hard to say this without coming across really arrogant, but I genuinely, from the very beginning, thought, yeah, I just thought, yeah, there's an audience.
Yeah.
And I can't really explain it, but I just knew if I get this right and I keep improving, I've got a story to tell, and I think I can story tell quite well.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of information and knowledge that I've got that I think other people wouldn't mind having. And so, just as long as I get it right and I'm confident behind the camera, I just always sort of knew that it could work and be successful.
Yeah, I feel like you can kind of know, like, when you do videos and that you're happy with it, you can kind of figure out that other people, might enjoy it. I mean,
Mhm.
I think for me, like, I know you might relate to this, but when you do a video and you're really happy with it, I feel like you kind of might feel that other people like it too. I think as long as you're happy with the content you're putting out, I think that's probably the most important thing, because it is hard with social media, and I know you'll get this as well. Like, if you put a video out that you're not 100% sure on, and you'll get a comment saying like you should have done this or whatever, it's quite hard in your head because it isn't your best video. And I did want to touch on a bit about that, because I know that, I suppose, it's women or just generally in content creating. How have you kind of managed to deal with the negatives of it?
Yeah, I mean, it still often does get to me, and exactly that what you say. If it doesn't matter who a person is, if they say something that has even a hint that it could be true, it will
Yeah,
always get in your head. And like you say, if a video isn't the best thing I've ever done, and I'll know when I watch it back. Like there'll be some videos I do where I watch them back and think, or I might say something slightly, not get it wrong, but it might not be like the best way I've worded it or something.
yeah,
I could just make something that could be better, and then someone will pick that out, and I'll be like, oh, it's a disaster. And it's the same if when I go on like Sky Sports, because I've not been on there often, and my audience is maybe doesn't always overlap with the Sky Sports audience.
yeah,
So there'll be people on there that don't know me. So it kind of feels like you're going back to square one where it's first impressions with people. And so if it's not your best time, if you don't go on Sky Sports and it's not always, you want everything to be the big moment where you do everything perfectly, you get every argument spot on. And if you don't, and people therefore start saying things or they say something negative, you're like, oh, if I'd have only said this, then it would. But you've just sort of got to accept that not everything will be your big moment, not everything's going to go perfectly, and there are going to be people out there who don't want you, that just like in life, that's just how it is. You can't please
yeah.
everybody, so what's the point in trying? And just always feel like you're being authentic. Have you done yourself justice? Have you given it your all? And you can't do more than that, and it's really not worth being hard on yourself, because there's going to be enough people out there that are going to be hard on you. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, it is. I'm so terrible at that. After a video, if it like I'm quite critical. It's hard really, because with YouTube, like, if you do get a few comments like that, or like you said, if you're on TV, your mistakes might get noticed a bit more. And like you said, with you on Sky Sports, your viewers might not watch that as much and watch your sort of content. But I
Mm.
did want to kind of ask you about, like, being a woman content creator, especially. No, we know now that this industry, there are a lot of more women coming through. Do you feel a bit of pressure, like, if you make a mistake on TV, because it can get highlighted? We've seen that with like Enya Luca. We've seen that if she makes a mistake, people kind of clip it and put it on the internet.
Yeah, I really don't like seeing that.
Yeah,
Every time it upsets me, because it is sexism. There's no two ways about it. That reduction to somebody's gender,
yeah.
I can't wrap my head around it. I think that's what upsets me, is that I can't figure it out either. It really irritates me. And like you say, it's that level of abuse. It, it it's very unhealthy from the people that do
Yeah.
it. But it's not nice to know that somebody is going to open up their phone and they're going to see that about themselves as well. Because imagine waking up one day, you
Yeah.
potentially know, because you're on social media now, and same with me. Imagine something that you've said, you wake up and so many people are just going after you for something that you've said in relation to football. It must drive you insane. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why does it matter to you that much? And like you say, the pressure from because of that, because there are people that are genuinely waiting. They are waiting to pounce on you if you get something wrong. So that pressure to make sure that you don't, it can be a little bit draining.
Yeah, it's quite sad, like you say, that people kind of do that. And when I was speaking with Laura Woods a few weeks ago, like I was just saying how, you know, things get clipped so much now and there are people waiting for you to kind of make their mistakes. And like you said, with Sky Sports, like people that might not know your content will kind of judge you as a woman and not really to see what, like, I think it's good, you know, if you don't know someone on TV to kind of wait to see what you've got to say first before making a judgment. And I think it's really difficult, like with social media and how it is these days. But I do think it is part of YouTube, it is part of life. And I think, you know, it can be toxic, it can be, you know, Twitter can be a lovely place. I did want to talk about the positives from you doing YouTube. For you, how would you say YouTube has changed your life?
It's made me a lot more confident, which is really nice. Because not only have I been doing YouTube for three or 4 years, I've also been doing it through like an important stage in life where you just change a lot, and you can sort of see that journey on my channel if you compare some of the older stuff to the newer stuff. And
Yeah.
the community of people that I picked up along the way, they've been a part of that, of sort of me growing up and becoming a young adult. And they notice it too, and they will say when they notice it, they say, "Oh, you're really developing into a confident, kind young lady." And I just think, "Oh, what a lovely thing to say!" And it just makes you feel so nice, and that's got to be my favourite part of it, is that feeling that that spring in your step it gives you. And it just makes me so excited for each week, because I know that each week there'll be a football match that I'll be going to, that I've got to spend the week researching the clubs, and I'm just sort of getting stuck in.
Yeah.
And it's just something always to focus on as well, which is great.
Yeah, I kind of like when you've got to kind of research a bit about, you know, a team. I think it's actually exciting learning about that because, you know, as an Arsenal fan, I will watch Arsenal, but it's nice to watch other people talk about their club. And I think that's the beauty of it. And it's obviously really lovely when you've worked really hard on a video and there's people that really love like your content. And like you said, when you get really nice messages of people saying how much they love your confidence and your content, it does feel rewarding. It feels like it's all really worth it in the end. And I did want to kind of ask you, because you have your content, you've done quite a few different things. I know you've done a lot of vlogging at football games, and I just want to ask you a bit about that, because when I have gone to a few games, I try to vlog the game, I do get a bit like embarrassed that people are watching me thinking, why is she vlogging at a game? Because it is kind of like a difficult topic. Some people don't get why people vlog at games. People just think enjoy the moment and put your phone down. Like, but how, like when you've done vlogs at matches, because I know you've done some at, you know, non-league and the Premier League and other, you know, teams, what has kind of been the response in the football ground when you've done that?
Yeah, so to be fair, I do try my absolute best not to try and make it as discreet as possible,
Yeah.
essentially. And I because I'm a bit of a people watcher myself as well. I do it in the stadium, so I'll be looking for the fans that are expressing the emotions in different ways, because I'll think, oh, it's going to be perfect for the video
Yeah.
and telling the story. And so it's funny really, because I try and make myself as invisible as possible so I can get those sort of candid shots. But then I also sort of look at it and think, when I do get the camera out on myself, I like the idea that people might see me, because then they might come on and get
Yeah.
involved, and it's a bit of a spontaneous chat. So I just try and think of all the positives, and luckily I've never had a negative encounter at a football ground. They've only
Yeah.
ever been positive ones, because more people, as long as they can trust you, because it depends what type of vlogger you are. If you're going there
Yeah.
because you want to try and get drama in a bad way, if you want to try and catch violence, or you want to do something maybe not like that, and people necessarily can't trust the way you'll paint them, and then that's an issue, and you should expect that people may be hesitant if they see you. Whereas if you build a bit of a reputation where people can trust you, and you're not there to
Yeah.
throw them under the bus, you're there to show them in a good light, then yeah, they want to get involved. And so people coming up to me and asking to come in, that's massively boosted my confidence in filming, because I just know that actually these eyes around me that are looking, sometimes it's because they're curious, and
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, it must be kind of a nice thing, like if either if someone recognises you when you're at a game, it must feel a bit weird though, because you're kind of, when you're doing YouTube, you're just doing it because you love it, and it's kind of crazy if people come up to you as well. But I think a lot of people, like you said, are interested. I know, like, it's kind of a weird one. People have so many different views on it. Like, for example, like when Reece Nelson scored that winner against Bournemouth, some people might like to record it, other people think enjoy the moment, and it's hard to please people with that because everyone has completely different views. Like, I think it's really good to capture that moment on camera and film it, because you'll look back on that and think how amazing that was. So it is quite strange. Everyone has a completely different view on it, but I absolutely love that from you. And I did want to ask you, we do content on like a few different things like the Premier League and non-league, and I know you do travel around doing that. But I wanted to talk about what sort of responses have you gotten from like doing that different things, like say with the Premier League, because I feel like with the Premier League it's kind of hard to please everyone, because Premier League is probably a really popular league. But for you, like, what responses have you gotten from talking about that?
Yeah, I'd say, like you say, the Premier League, because it opens you up to a super wide audience,
Yeah.
and also because it's perhaps become a little bit saturated, the YouTube market in terms of Premier League stuff. There's quite a lot, so maybe the slightly negative opinions are that you are sort of using the popularity of the Premier League, and it's not from a passion of the game. And I think that's where I wanted to do more non-league stuff, was to really strip it back a bit and show that love and passion for football and remind people of that. And then when I do then the Premier League content as well, you can sort of see the differences and similarities in good ways and bad. But generally speaking, I think it's always, it doesn't really matter what the game is. It's all about just the way you approach it. If a bit like with you and the
Mm.
content you do, the content I do, it's honest, it's authentic, and it's clearly well researched. And I think that's, as long as you do that and people see that, then they're always going to think positively, because people love to watch people talk about something they're passionate about. And so, yeah, I've noticed that. I've noticed that it doesn't really matter the matches that you go to. It's just as long as you really come across like you want to do it.
Yeah, I kind of think like when you're watching someone, you're really watching them for the person, not necessarily what sort of content they might do. I mean, for example, when I started watching you, I'm not a Bolton fan, but I just felt intrigued about their season, just about what you're doing. So I feel like, when you watch someone, it's more about what they're doing, and no matter where they're traveling or what they talk about each week, it's just nice to follow that person. And I do think it's about being yourself, because it's easy to kind of draw a lot of like, with Arsenal fans or with United fans, whoever, there's so many YouTubers out there that do the same thing. So I do think it's so important to be yourself, because, like I said, there's just so much of it, and there are so many football YouTubers nowadays. It has, completely changed. I did want to ask you a few little questions, quick fire ones, to get people to get to know you a bit better. I want to start off by asking you, growing up for you, who is your football hero?
Ooh. I would say, in terms of actual footballers, it was Gerrard and Rooney were my early ones, because I used to watch a show called Rooney Street Striker, which I just thought was the coolest show ever. And I just loved that Gerrard was, he put absolutely everything in to be able to play for his boyhood club, because it just meant that much to him. And I just thought that
Yeah,
was really, really nice.
I love that. Interesting one, really. If you could like interview anyone in football, that you've not interviewed yet, who would you like to interview?
That is a really good question. I would love to work with Arsenal women at some
Yeah,
point, and really get into and get find out loads about like the culture at the club, because I just think they're such a cool football club, aren't they? And just find out how just what goes into it, especially the content team as well, and just because in terms of their marketing push and the way they are, it's just, I think it's a cut above. So yeah, I'd love to find out more about what goes into that.
Yeah, I think with like women's football, it's definitely like really grown a long way. And I do, they're a nice, the Arsenal team now, the women's team, they're a lovely bunch of girls. And I would just love to be with them behind the scenes. They do seem like a nice laugh. I'd love for you to like answer, like growing up, like to where you are now, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Uh, I think I would probably say, and I wish every older person could say this to their younger self, but the sad reality of it is, even if you said this, I think it takes age to actually realize it, is that when you're in school and you've got, popularity, and you've got like, you're almost in a bubble in high school, aren't you? And if you ever feel out of place, if you don't feel like you fit in, and therefore you try to fit in, just absolutely don't. Always be yourself.
Yeah.
And beyond that bubble of high school, those people around you really won't matter anymore anyway. Like, how many people from high
Mhm.
school do you never actually see again? And just, their opinions around you, as much as you respect everyone's opinions, if they're negative, just focus on yourself. But I think a lot of young people, you just need to grow up to learn that.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you're at that age, like I know, say at primary school or high school, you really care a lot about what people think. And like looking back, I'm not really friends with anyone that I
Yeah.
went to school with. It is crazy thinking, but I think that's good advice. I think the most important thing really is to be yourself, and especially with YouTube, I think it does come across to a lot of people that that's the best quality to have because like we've said, there's so many YouTubers out there, and in life, I think it's so important to be yourself. And I did want to ask you, with the whole kind of YouTube media thing, what would you say your dream goal is for that?
I think the way that I'm growing at the moment is really exciting, I must admit, and just reaching whole new audiences is brilliant. I think I kind of just want to make a real name for myself. I want to sort of be able to look back and think, yeah, wow, she was known as the she was the person you went to if you wanted to watch someone who was a total geek. She was kind, she was funny, and just really loved football and like talking about football and teaching people about different football stories. I kind of want to have a legacy that I leave
Yeah.
behind. Really, that's a really nice one. And yeah, if I can do that, then I'll be chuffed.
Oh, I love that. I'd love to know, like, hypothetically, if you had the option to go on any TV show, whether it's football, non-football, what TV show would you go on?
Oh, I would go on. Oh wow. Do you know I love a good quiz show? I love a good quiz show. Something like The Chase.
Yeah.
I would love that. Although I think I would get so nervous because if you
Oh,
do one poor display on The Chase, that's it. You
yeah, you're gone.
you tarnish your reputation. People think you know nothing. But yeah, a quiz show would be really fun.
Yeah, well, do you know what it is? I think it's really good. I find it interesting watching those programs, and I'm like you. I feel embarrassed if I did so bad because, I mean, people would watch it and think like you're really bad, and then I think I couldn't unlive it because it's on TV forever. It's really bad. I just wouldn't know what to do. I mean, it's quite interesting with TV. But for you, like obviously you have been on Sky Sports, you on that show. Um, would you love to go on any other football kind of programs? I know that Soccer AM is like, I don't know if that's more of a thing now, but what other football like programs would you say is your dream to go on?
I I think I would like to go on when they create documentaries. When you see different like broadcasters, they'll put out. The BBC have done a really good recent one about Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, and they get all sorts of people that were around the players that they do these documentaries about. And you've got like the All or Nothing series on Prime,
Yeah.
around football clubs. I think if I could have any sort of involvement in a creative or sort of presenting manner, that would be really, really cool, really awesome. It'd be great to just have that opportunity to have a more sit-down conversation with people who work in football that isn't just restricted to interviewing them about something that's currently going on, or when you've just got a few minutes to interview them about something in the moment, just something that's a bit more timeless, that you can, you know, sit down and have a raw, honest chat with people that are within the sport.
Yeah, I think it's lovely because especially when you watch documentaries, you do get to know people differently, which I think is absolutely amazing. And this is kind of a hard question because I'm like quite a person that lives for now. But you know, if I have to ask you, with yourself, like where would you say you see yourself in like 5 years' time? I know currently, you know, you're doing really well with YouTube and you're on Sky Sports. It's a hard question because like I said, I kind of like to live for now. And what I'm kind of like go with the flow. But what would you say for that?
I think I see myself having a little bit more involvement in mainstream, in TV, than I do now, because I'm starting to, you know, there's starting to be, like you
Yeah,
said, new Sky Sports appearances, and I've already spoken to people who are behind those shows. You know, if there's other people that you know for other Sky Sports shows that you think I'd be a good fit for, I'd love to open those doors. So I'd love to work a little bit more in TV because it's just super exciting. And then on YouTube, I just really, really hope that I've got to a point where I can do absolutely any type of football content. I can go to any match in the world, in England, and know that people are they're ready for it. They're excited for it, and there's always going to be an audience there because they've sort of got to know me enough by that point where they're just excited to see the next adventure.
yeah, I really love that, and I do think it's really good that obviously, like we see with Sky, they give like young content creators these opportunities because, you know, YouTube, like I said before, it's so much better than what it used to be. Like, it's come such a long way, and I think it's incredible to see that with you and other content creators as well. This is quite an interesting one for someone like what's something that a lot of people might not know about you.
Hmm. I think perhaps I think maybe people will overestimate my like I talked about confidence, and I've grown in confidence in the last few years, and I know I've got a slightly socially awkward persona to my disadvantage and advantage, but I also put on a lot of sort of not fake confidence, but it's hard to explain. But I think because in the football world, I could talk for hours about
Yeah.
it. You might think that that's a reflection of what I'm always like, but sort of away from it, I'm super quiet, super shy. Um, but also, as well, what people might not know about me is my height. The amount of people that will message me or they'll see me in person and they'll go, I didn't realize that you'd be this tall. And there's even a website that has like information about me. And it says, as height, it says 5'5". I said, we are not sure of Neve's height, but we think she may be 5'5". And I'm thinking, well, I don't know how you come to that because I'm 5'11".
Wow. No,
Yeah.
I worry that people would see me and think I'm a lot smaller than what they think.
How tall are you?
I don't know. I think I'm like 5'4", 5'5". I am quite small.
Yeah.
But
Well, to be fair, I think the average in this country is about that for women. I'm just obscenely tall.
it's weird though because like when you see people online, like I've seen people in real life and they just look different to what you think they are. I think you imagine they'll look different, but it's quite strange. Doing that. And I did want to kind of jump on because this is an Arsenal channel, so I thought I'd better ask a few little questions for the people who are watching this as well. Arsenal, you know, the title race at the moment is looking a bit, you know, it's quite exciting. I mean, not for us, it's quite nerve-wracking. I know you obviously do a lot of non-league stuff, but I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on the title race at the moment. Who you think's going to win the league?
Yeah, I mean, at the very start of the season, before a ball was kicked, I was convinced that Liverpool would win the
Mhm.
league, and I'm not someone to sort of change an opinion like that, and I don't think enough has happened. I know, obviously, Arsenal beat
Yeah.
Liverpool recently, but I don't think enough has happened to convince me otherwise. But that was a really good win for Arsenal, wasn't it? And I think what plays into Arsenal's favour is the way that, and maybe this is under Arteta, the way they learn and get better at things. Like in that season where they missed out, they'd lost to Manchester City both times, and that played a huge part. And this season they beat them. They beat another title contender in Liverpool, and they seem to be able to learn from things that they weren't necessarily as good at. They sort of get
Yeah.
better at. So I think, yeah, it would not be surprised if Arsenal did it, but I've got to stick with Liverpool.
It is hard. Like right now, like I still think I couldn't really say who I think it is. I think it could be anyone. Obviously, Arsenal are catching up, but we're still a few points ahead and behind. And I think Man City have still got that game in hand. So I think it is hard. I think Liverpool this season have definitely come back stronger. And I did expect that last season. It was just Arsenal, Man City, and I knew that Liverpool, had one bad season and they were going to come back stronger. And I did want to ask you, actually, talking on like Liverpool as well. We know Klopp's leaving at the end of the season, and for me, like I knew it would happen one day. But did that news surprise you when it came out?
Yeah, it did. I mean, like you say though, we knew it would happen, but it's one of those huge things in football that you kind of like you know it's gonna happen, but you couldn't put your finger on when.
Yeah,
And you think about managers that have stayed at clubs for even longer than Klopp at Liverpool, like Ferguson and Wenger, and the fit as well of Klopp and Liverpool, not just the way they play, but also and the way he's transformed them, but also the type of place and the people of Liverpool, and it aligns massively with Klopp and his values. And you sort of thought, is there anywhere he can go next that fits him more? So it just feels like the perfect fit, those two. So for him to leave, it well, and I think if maybe he hasn't delved too much into why, but he wants a little break from football, and maybe if he didn't want the break from football, he wouldn't have left. So maybe it's not necessarily about him eyeing up somewhere else. It's more that he just wants a little bit
yeah.
of a breather because it's been so intense, hasn't it, at Liverpool the last 5-10 years?
Yeah, I don't blame him really. I mean, I think from what we saw and read, I kind of took it as he probably just wanted that time off to be with his family and just make sure his health is the most important thing. And it's hard because it's really consuming the amount of time that you have to focus on football. And like YouTube, it's so hard to switch off from it when you go home. It's like on your mind, like if you lose a game, what should I have done better? Like it always goes through your mind. And I think, like, obviously, as an Arsenal fan, it probably will make it a bit easier for us, him not being there. But I do feel like it's probably a good, if he feels like it's the right thing for him, it's probably the best thing. But it's going to be really weird next season without Liverpool, without Klopp. Like, I just can't imagine them without Klopp. It just feels strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's so strange because he's completely transformed what they're all about as well, from the transfers to the style of play. That like I think people have maybe forgotten the state that Liverpool were in before he came, and he completely transformed them. So I understand completely that Liverpool fans will probably be very nervous as to just basically worrying, are Liverpool going to get it right, or are they going to sink again?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like, I honestly don't know how they'll do next season. Though they do have a really good squad, but I think the manager is a massive part to play in why Liverpool are successful. And I think if Arsenal don't win the league, I think I've said it would be great to see Liverpool do it. And Klopp's last season, and I'm pretty tired of Man City, winning things season after season.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But do you ever think with Pep, he has been here for a while, do you expect him to stay in the Premier League for a few more seasons, or because he has won so much, and I do think, can't you just leave now that you've won so much?
Yeah. Do you know? Well, I think potentially down the line there could be an opening at Barcelona. And to me, I can't think of another club that he would necessarily go to.
Yeah.
But maybe back to Barcelona makes sense. Or I think if Italian football was in a better position, I think he seems like the kind of guy that would suit Italy and Italian football. But I'm not sure if it's strong enough at the moment for him. So I think he's sort of in a position where he's, like you say, they just win. He's at a club where it's relentless winning. He's won the Champions League now. So all those trophies are to be won at Manchester City. It's just about whether or not his hunger gets the better of him and he wants to sort of push himself. And in a similar way that when he was at Barcelona, at the time they had probably one of the best teams that has ever existed in football. Then he went over to Bayern, had the new challenge, and again won everything. Now City, will he want to do that all over again? Because I imagine as managers, they do maybe after a while start to think, can I push myself a little bit more?
Yeah, it's really interesting because like he's won so much, but I feel like he probably has that hunger to win even more, especially I know this season is very competitive with, kind of Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. I mean, I know there are a few other teams in the top like in the top four with us, but I just think it kind of makes it even better when it's more competitive. And a part of me hopes it kind of will be with Liverpool next season, like to help them be competitive. And it will be interesting with Pep. Like I do, obviously he won't be around in the Premier League forever, but I do hope he can kind of give me one because I do want Arsenal to kind of get back. But it's going to be really interesting with how the Premier League goes with that, and it's just interesting about Klopp because I kind of expected it in a way, like we've said, it would happen one day, and I think if they can obviously have some success this season for Liverpool, it will be good. And I did want to kind of touch on a bit about Arteta because it has been a very, it's been a roller coaster, like especially as an Arsenal fan watching. We've obviously, been eighth twice, we've won the FA Cup and we challenged last season. I know this season we're challenging again. From someone like outside of Arsenal, what have you kind of made of Arteta and the journey he's done like here at Arsenal?
Yeah, I must admit, in the first couple of years, I was quite hesitant. I wasn't necessarily like always not going to do well because when he first arrived, it was exciting. You hear all these positive things that Pep Guardiola said about him. We know how successful Manchester City were whilst he was at the club, and so it was exciting to see what he was all about. And he was quite calm and measured, and I think, oh, this could be someone. It feels like a good fit for Arsenal. Obviously, he's a bit of a legend, and then yeah, that first couple of years, it was not a case of, oh no, we should cut him off, he's not going to be good, but you did wonder whether or not he would maybe be someone who got Arsenal together, laid the foundations for an elite manager to come in and then be the one to win the trophies, then be the one to win the Premier Leagues and sort of take on from that work that Arteta did to rebuild the club. But actually, the more and more we see, and after the
Yeah.
FA Cup and the title race, you think, oh no, Arteta can be that one himself. And I still stand by the fact that he can be that one. But I do think that if a season goes by this season and they win nothing, absolutely nothing, then it's not a case of I don't like this sort of thing where we have to say our managers then need to go. It's time to call it a day. But maybe this. I really don't know. I don't know what would be the truthful thing. But I just feel like it's got to a point now with the progression where you look at like Klopp, for example, when he went to Liverpool, it was around this time where they had that moment where they were rebuilding. It was now at this point where it's Premier League, or it's a major trophy, Champions League, and they've made those final pieces, those final transfers, Alisson, Van Dijk, that meant they won those major trophies. And I almost feel like we've seen that with Declan Rice as a signing, and Jesus as a signing, and it's maybe there could be maybe one more signing away from it, where you think, right, they've done those jigsaw puzzle pieces. Now they really ought to go and win the Champions League or the Premier League. And I think that's about time now, this season or next season. But I don't know, how do you feel as an Arsenal fan? Do you, if you win absolutely nothing this season, will you still be strongly rooted that when you do, it will be under Arteta?
I think for me, like, especially when we were going through that season, I think when he came over and took over Uni Emery and we finished eighth, I could kind of, not understand, but I was okay with the fact, he's been here half a season. He can't really change too much. He's got to have a few windows to bring his own players in, and we have seen him do that. Some of the players he's brought in have worked really well and have really, changed his Arsenal team, and some just haven't worked. They've not been the right signings, and Arteta obviously has had the right time. I feel like for me, it's obviously a difficult question because, like, I think it's hard. The only chance we would win silverware, I know we're in the Champions League, but I just don't think it would be. I don't see us winning it this season. I think that'd be a bit over optimistic considering the other teams in there. I think with the league, like, I think Man City are really strong this season with De Bruyne back. They're a lot more of a threat now than ever before, and especially Liverpool. So I feel like we obviously do have a chance of winning the league, but it's not, I feel like it's more likely if Liverpool or Man City to do it. But yeah, it's tough, really. I mean, I do question Arteta on a few decisions because I do think he can overcomplicate situations that he doesn't need to, and maybe that could do with his unexperienced or working with Pep. We know Pep's a bit like that too. But yeah, I think for me, like, I'm very supportive of Arteta, but I know he does make a lot of errors, and it's hard because if we got rid of him, there's also that question, who would we bring in? Like, because there's not as many managers nowadays, and to beat Liverpool the way we did at the weekend, I think for me, I remember when we used to kind of get beaten like 4 or 5-0, and we've really shown that we can compete with Liverpool, and I feel like we have come a really long way. Like a few years ago under Wenger, I knew we weren't able to compete with Liverpool, and now we're able to compete, we're able to beat them. But yeah, it's obviously tough because Klopp can afford to have a bad season because he's won so much silverware that he's brought Liverpool, and you know what he's done to earn that right to be there. So it's hard, really, because we only have won one FA Cup. But yeah, for you, if you were like an Arsenal fan, and like you said, if we don't win anything this season, do you think the right thing would be to stick for Arteta? We have obviously seen that we can, compete. Like you said, we've shown that we can, beat Man City at the Emirates and Liverpool as well. So what would you think, really?
Yeah, I do think it'd be the manner in which, if no trophies were won, it'd be the manner in which no trophies were won. If it was the same as last season, where it feels like, I hate using the word bottle, but it feels like you kind of bottled it a little bit, and it feels like pressure got to you. If it felt like that happened again in the last few months, I'd be really concerned about having another season with that, and very much open to the idea that if there was an elite manager, a manager who had won things that could come in, then I would be a little bit tempted by the idea of that, because it's not to then say that Arteta's done a bad job. It's to say that he has maybe done the job that his experience in management as an actual manager has. This is where he's at. This is what he can do. He's done a brilliant job, but maybe it needs somebody else to be able to instill a certain type of mentality that it takes to win trophies, and maybe if you want to do that now and you don't want to just still be in progression, it could be worth a change. But I mean, as you say, if the manner is slightly different and you feel like you've learned from it, which already, like you say, the wins have suggested, and if it's a case of fine margins that have caused not winning those trophies, then you have almost got to say, well, yeah, who else is there? And could it be down to that you just need one more player, two more players in that team to just get that little bit further, and then it will come.
Yeah, it is hard, really. Like you said, like in the last few seasons when we've tried to get top four, we do kind of we kind of slip at the end. Like we kind of like lose this energy that we have at the start of the season. And I know we have more experience now, which obviously can help us, but it's a bit of a difficult one. Like I said, I think in the manner and what we do it is going to be important. Like I've said, if we compete up until the end, and if we're on points with Liverpool, Man City, or if we're like a point or two behind, like I think for me, it's going to be important that we do compete with them throughout the whole season, because I know at the end, I think we had games like Brighton, and we should be really beating them teams, and we just fell off at the end. So I think for me, it will be interesting to see kind of, especially us not doing any January transfer window, like bringing anyone in. But I know that situation with FFP obviously is a bit difficult. But yeah, I think with Arteta, I think it's hard to be patient as fans, but I think it's good to assess things in the season. I mean, it would be hard to bring someone else in that can. I mean, we are in a better position than what we were when Wenger left. We obviously are competing again, which is what we need. So really do hope, fingers crossed, we can maybe win the league or get really close to that. I really hope we can do that. But Neve, it's been really lovely to have you on. I've enjoyed every moment of this. Thank you for coming on. Do you want to just tell people where they can find you on your social media so you can give you a follow?
Yeah, but firstly, thank you for having me on. It's been really fun, and you can get me on YouTube. It's Stunt Pegg, which is a childhood nickname, by the way. I always get asked
I love that
why
name.
are you called Stunt
So
Pegg?
random.
I know it's. I always tell people, and people ask, "What do you do?" And I say, "Well, I'm a serious YouTuber." And then, "What's your YouTube name?" Stunt Pegg. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube, and I think I'm Stunt Pegg on everything. Also, my actual name on other social medias, but I'm not going to try and get people to spell Neve Petruzziello and try and
Yeah, it's quite a hard one. But yeah, I will put your YouTube in the description, and please do subscribe because you're so close to 300k, which is absolutely amazing. But to those that are watching this back, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I really love chatting with you today, Neve, and I will see you all in my next video.